Help me reach 1,500 subscribers. If this story resonates with you, support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Thank you. My wife told me she hated being with me the way someone complains about bad weather. Casually. Almost absent-mindedly. Like it was an inconvenience, not a confession that would fracture an entire life. We were standing in the kitchen when she said it. The overhead light above the sink flickered, the same way it always had for years, casting uneven shadows across the counters we'd wiped down together 1,000 times. Her arms were crossed, her body angled away from me, eyes already drifting toward her phone like the conversation was a formality she wanted to get through. "I'm miserable," she said flatly. "I hate being with you." No shouting. No tears. No build-up. Just a statement, delivered with the same tone you'd use to say you didn't like the taste of something anymore. "My name is Daniel. I'm 39 years old. I'd been married to Emily for 11 years. And in that moment something finally clicked, something I'd been avoiding for a very long time. Love doesn't always end in explosions. Sometimes it just switches off quietly, leaving you standing there wondering when the room got so cold. I didn't respond right away. I nodded once, the way you do when someone reminds you to take the trash out. Emily didn't wait for anything more. She turned back to her phone, thumbs moving quickly, relief visible on her face, as if she'd finally set down a heavy bag she'd been carrying and was glad to be free of it. That hurt more than the words themselves. For years, I believed effort could fix anything. Something felt wrong, I worked harder. I stayed later at the office. I planned weekends she never seemed excited about. I listened while she complained about her job, her friends, her family, absorbing it all quietly, believing that being steady was the same as being loving. Somewhere along the way, I became background noise in my own marriage. We met in Manchester when we were young and broke, splitting takeaway boxes and talking about the future like it was guaranteed. She used to reach for my hand in public. She used to laugh with her whole body, head tilted back, unafraid of taking up space. I built a life around that version of her. A mortgage. Routines. Quiet dinners. Shared calendars stuck to the fridge. I told myself this was love maturing. I didn't notice when affection turned into tolerance. When conversations became logistics. Or maybe I noticed and convinced myself it was normal. That night after she said it, the house felt different. Smaller. Like it was closing in on me. Emily went upstairs early and closed the bedroom door without looking back. I stayed on the sofa, staring at a blank television screen, listening to the clock tick loudly in the silence, as if it was counting down something I couldn't see yet. I felt embarrassed more than angry. Ashamed that I had stayed so long where I clearly wasn't wanted. Around midnight, I stood up and walked into the bedroom. She was already asleep, facing the wall. Her phone lay on the nightstand, the screen glowing faintly with a notification I didn't try to read. I didn't wake her. I didn't need more confirmation. I opened the wardrobe and pulled out a suitcase I hadn't used in years. The zipper sounded unnaturally loud in the quiet room. I folded my clothes slowly, deliberately, like I was packing evidence for a case I'd finally decided to win. Memories interrupted me as I packed. Her head on my shoulder during our first road trip. The night we painted the living room and laughed until we were dizzy. Then the later memories, the sharper ones. The sigh she gave when I walked into a room. The way she corrected me in front of friends. The silence that followed my jokes. I realized I had been negotiating for scraps of affection and calling it compromise. I didn't take everything. Just enough to leave. Jeans. Shirts. Work boots. The old watch my father gave me. When the suitcase was full, I stood there for a moment, listening to her breathing, steady and unconcerned. That's when something settled inside me. Not rage. Clarity. She had told me the truth. Staying after that would have been choosing humiliation. I carried the suitcase downstairs. The front door creaked when I opened it, a sound I'd fixed 3 times but never quite managed to solve. Cold air rushed in. I stepped outside feeling strangely light. As I reached my car, keys cold in my palm, I heard the door behind me open. "Daniel." Her voice cut through the night, sharp with surprise. I turned slowly. Emily stood barefoot in the doorway, confusion replacing certainty. She looked at the suitcase, then at me, like the idea hadn't occurred to her until now. "You're leaving?" she asked, her voice suddenly thinner. I didn't answer right away. I just nodded. The street was quiet. Rows of dark houses watched silently. For the first time in years, she seemed unsure of herself, like she'd expected me to argue, to beg, to negotiate my place. Instead, I set the suitcase down and met her eyes calmly. "I didn't mean it like this," she said finally. "You're being dramatic." That word used to stop me. Used to make me apologize for having feelings. This time it didn't land. I picked up the suitcase again and stepped toward the car. Daniel, she said louder. Where are you even going? A place where I'm not hated, I replied. She laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. You're really doing this over one sentence? It wasn't one sentence, I said. It was years. She crossed her arms again, defensive. So that's it? You're just walking away from our marriage? I'm walking away from being unwanted in it. For a moment, her eyes went glassy. Then irritation took over. You always do this. Run instead of fixing things. I almost smiled. Running would have been staying. I tried fixing things. You just didn't notice because it was convenient. That hit something. You can't just leave, she said. What about the house? The plans? We have a routine, I corrected. There's a difference. She lowered her voice. I was just being honest. Don't punish me for that. I'm not punishing you, I said. I'm respecting myself. Silence stretched between us. A car passed at the end of the street, headlights sweeping over us like a spotlight. You'll regret this, she said softly. Maybe, I admitted. But I'd regret staying more. I put the suitcase in the car. The finality of it landed then. You're really not going to fight for me? I fought until you told me you hated being with me. That was the bell. She stood barefoot on the cold pavement as I drove away. I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. I checked into a small hotel near the motorway that night. Slept deeper than I had in years. No knots in my stomach. No rehearsed conversations. Weeks later, I unpacked that same suitcase in a small empty flat filled with sunlight. It wasn't much, but it was mine. She said she hated being with me. I believed her. And believing her turned out to be the most self-respectful thing I'd ever done.